Hey, you're welcome to the Dr. Nia Desnia show where I help SMEs thrive. I'm happy to be here. I know that I was MIA, so MIA means missing in action. Okay. Those that know, of course, I know you guys know, but So yeah, I had vacations and I had some meetings where I could not step away to be here. And so I apologize that I didn't give you guys notification, notice, so to say. Um, and this is really the holiday season, so hopefully I'll see how many episodes I can do before the end of the year. But just wanted to say anyway, let me not go on and on, but just to say thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing us to be part of your evening or the afternoon or morning, wherever you are. Very excited to be here. Of course, the Dr. Nia Desnia show is a platform where I help SMEs thrive. SMEs are small and medium-sized enterprises. So I help them thrive by actually, giving them advice. Now, on this platform, of course, well, I'm not giving legal, not giving accounting advice. It's just knowledge, educative advice, or educative information. So I wouldn't really say advice, educative information, where anybody that listens that it has a small or medium-sized enterprise can just run with this, right? And just talk to their professional and say, okay, I heard this on the Dr. Nia Desnia show. Is this something that I can implement in my company? All right. So, and of course, sometimes we have people that come on board to ask questions, or people come and actually give, add resource, give resources that are actually beneficial to SMEs, right? Again, this platform is not no legal and professional advice. It's just informative and educative so that you can actually run with this, talk to your accountant and talk to your attorney, or whatever professional you're working with. Now, if you don't have a CPA that you're working with, I'm always here. My firm is always here to um, work with you. Alrighty. So today I have another exciting topic. The exciting topic I have today is crisis management. Crisis management for small and medium-sized enterprises. All right. Now, you might think that crisis management is actually peculiar to large companies. Well, crisis management or crisis, not say crisis management, you have to have a crisis first. And we could look at what define crisis, right? We could look at what's really crisis. Crisis is something that negatively impacts your normal operations, right? It could be anything. It could be something to do with even weather. I mean, bad weather. It could be even breach of data. Anything that could actually impact the normal running of your business. It could be lack of raw materials, right? Just depends on what it is. So I know that large organizations always, most of them, I would say, I mean, most of them would have a crisis management, maybe would I say crisis? They have crisis management, maybe process or procedure where they already have something in place in case something happens, right? In case they face any kind of crisis. But I know that so many SMEs, I mean, because sometimes we just feel that it can happen to us. And so a lot of SMEs might step back and say, you know what, I don't really need that, or I'm not aware, or they just go with the flow that if it happens, it happens. Well, it's so important for us that have our SMEs. It's very important for them to know how to manage crisis. All right. Very important, because when you manage crisis, you can actually um, quickly recover, right? You can quickly recover from having something that is not even, let's say, that would just close down your business, to something, a process that will say, you know what, yes, we are prepared for this. And so because of that, we're going to step up and make sure that we're fine because we already have something in place. All right. So how do you actually manage crisis? how do you really manage a crisis, right? And of course, we have different crises. As I said, it just depends, and then it could be anything like somebody even, an unexpected, maybe someone dies within the organization and your company, and that person is really someone that is very, very um, important. I mean, everybody's important, but when I say important, I would say if the person is or is somebody that is a key figure in the operations of your business, right? So it's very important. So it's very important for you to always have the crisis management plan in place, and we're going to get into that. But if you do not have that in place, okay, we're just going to give you, or I'm just going to give you some analysis that you can actually look at what works for your company. Of course, as I said, please work with a professional. This is just for educative purposes only. All right. So I said that it's so important to always have a crisis management plan in place. All right. So let's say crisis. I'm going to really look at let's say, let me see. I'm going to use a real life example that could happen, so that we can really relate with this, because I don't want to just talk abstract without tying it to something. Okay. Let's say, I know that for the past few weeks when I speak, I talk about bakery and I talk about baking and bakery because you know what? This is the holiday season. I know, I mean, we're watching our weight and all kinds of things, but honestly, please, I'm having fun with food. I'm trying to, of course, I'm watching here and there, but I'm just using the bakeries just as to explain this, because of course we're already in the holiday mood. Most of us, or I mean, if you're not, hopefully you will be very soon. All right. So let's look at um a baker, right? So a baker bakes cakes, bakes, I mean, and then of course there are bakers that or yeah, there are bakeries or bakers themselves that have specific, they might have specific um products they use in their, maybe specialty bakery, and the products they use, they have maybe specific products they use for their cake, right? Specific. Now, let's assume that the maybe the specific this specialists or special flour they use, or special condiment they use. Let's say, mostly, let's say it's a specialty bakery, right? And they don't use just normal flour. They use flour. Maybe they import flour from, let's say, Sweden. There's specific Swedish flour that they import, right? And that's why that they are known for that. And let's say this bakery, you know, um, there's something happening and they're unable to get that specific flour. Remember, I said, okay, the Sweden, maybe because of delay in shipping, that's actually a crisis, especially during this time, right? That so um crisis might not be, the crisis in this sense might be, oh, that's not really a crisis. Yes, it's a crisis because maybe yours might be different. But let's give a life example. And that's why I talked about a bakery and a specialty bakery getting flour from maybe Sweden, getting flour, specific flour, because they have maybe a particular product or a plant or something that they use in the flour, and they actually use that flour to make their products. So that is an issue. That's an issue. Remember, sometimes that because this is a specialty bakery, it's likely they have orders, and maybe all orders from all over the country, right? So that is really a crisis when they can't get the actual specialty flour to bake their specialty cake, right? Or products, or muffins. They can't get that. So first of all, what does the bakery do, right? They have to say, okay, what is going on? I have to analyze the issue. What is going on? Why am I not? What's happening, right? And they find out, okay, this is the issue. Something, maybe supply chain issues. They call their supplier in Sweden and they find that, oh my goodness, there's a backlog. They are unable to get this product. So that is the very first thing. Now you know that why there's a problem, that it could be anything. It could be the person that is producing that product is no more available, is maybe the store there is going through crisis. It could be anything. But the most important thing is that you, the owner of the bakery, of course, I'm using a bakery as an example. You can put your company name or product there and look at what actually is a crisis. So now we're looking at a bakery, and this is the time, this is we're looking at the holiday season. So backed up orders. So this person, the baker, has analyzed the issue and says, okay, this is what's happening, right? Now, the next step is for you to be transparent, talk to your customer, say, okay, but before you even talk to your customer, you have to say, okay, what are you going to tell them? Are you going to, of course, you don't want to tell them that their orders have been canceled. No, before you talk to your customer, because I mean, I mean, if you're good at what you do, customers understand, right? So of course it shouldn't be a ridiculous time lag or but if something happens, and that's why it's so important that I tell when you're actually delivering having products like not only baked sales, right? Baked goods, things like maybe even products like custom made products. I always say give a buffer, give a buffer. I noticed that even the airlines sometimes, not all the time, you know, they give a buffer for arrival and departure. I mean, departure flights. They do give a buffer sometimes, not always. So you see how you're arriving. Wow, you sometimes you take off even late, but you still get there maybe 10 minutes. You take off 30 minutes late, but you still get there within the range of time, and you wonder what happened. Is there the buffer? Is a buffer? That's what I from my experience. I'm not an airline professional, but I've seen that a lot of times. Now, when you're in this kind of business, the bakery business, one of the things that I advise, even before we get to this crisis management or any business that you have to maybe custom made products, give a buffer. Give a buffer. Now, if you deliver the products early, good, but always give a buffer, right? If it takes you 2 weeks to get the product done, give a week or two more because anything can happen. So that's really important, right? So those that have orders that they needed by in November, for example, end of November, they should have ordered maybe in October, early October, or you can give it depending on what it is. It's up to you to decide. And it's I've been able to I've been able to get this product finish the product earlier. That's the better way to say, I can't finish it. So it's better to give a buffer. Okay. So now you've analyzed the issue. Now, because let's say you're the kind that already gave the buffer, right? And say, okay, I'm gonna spend extra time, that that 2 weeks, you gave yourself 2 weeks buffer. You know that if there's any issue and you tell the person, oh, I have a 1 week delay, because remember, you would have finished it in 2 weeks, but you gave them 4 weeks and you said, oh, I have 1 week delay, right? That wouldn't really might not really be an issue, except if they have it for maybe they're using it for specific events, right? But that might be something else. So, but it's so important for you to give yourself time, right? As a buffer. Now, when you have finished analyzing the issue, you have to say, what is my solution? What do I need to do? What do I need to do to fix this? Now, going back to my example, with the bakery that has their raw materials, their product, their specialty flour coming from Sweden. What I would advise is that the person actually looks for could be an alternatives, right? Now, it might be that let's look back at that Swedish store. Maybe something could have happened to the supply chain for that specific store. Call around, start calling around, find out on time if there's a problem. All right. Or you can find out, maybe it's not only in Sweden that they have this particular product. It might take a lot of research, right? You might find that that product is also sold maybe locally. Maybe before it wasn't sold locally, but now, over the years, we found out that, okay, there are some areas that they can actually grow this particular maybe wheat. You find that it might be somewhere that is actually nearer than Sweden that you can actually, get the orders turned around. And so you analyze the issue, find out, and then you can, once you know that, okay, this is what I'm going to do, right? And of course, when you talk about analyzing the issue, is as quickly as possible. After analyzing it quickly as possible, to find out, okay, what is the solution, right? So do your best. It might take of course, a lot of research. Long hours, but again, if your clients are loyal, I mean, they know what you do, you don't really want to disappoint them. So you have to, as quickly as possible, find an alternative to see, in this case, the bakery, what can we do? Right? Can we do local? Is there a way we can, is there something that we can do? Right? Now, you exhaust all avenues, right? Once you do that, you know where you stand, then, right? You talk to your um customers, right? Talk to your customers. Now, if the delay is getting too much, it's going to be too long, and you can't resolve that very quickly, let them know ahead of time, right? Let them know ahead of time. Maybe refunds has to come out or something, or discounts or something. Let them know ahead of time. But I would say that if you have a product sale, custom made items with the buffer. I mean, you should be able to, if there's any kind of crisis, because there's a buffer, it actually gives you time to fix the problem. All right. Because again, we're talking about one Swedish store that sells that flour. I'm sure if it's that example, there should be another one. But again, it will take a lot of work. Make sure you're checking, make sure, remember, crisis man. We're looking at crisis man. How do you manage a crisis? All right. And in this case, I am talking about raw materials for a bakery. And we know raw materials for a bakery is, I mean, it could be all kinds of stuff, but I'm just trying to use the example. I am actually using the example for an example of flour, right? Specialty flour. Okay. So it's important again that after analyzing the issue, knowing how you're going to solve it, what do? You talk to your customers, right? Now, it could be that you have been advertising this for some time, talking to people, and then in that case, you have to go beyond your specific, client and just let them know. Yeah, because it could be something that you've been advertising for this, let's say for this holiday season, right? So you can actually state it there that, okay, this is we're trying to we're still on this, we're working to meet the deadline, but there are a couple of changes we're trying to rectify or regularize, right? Then those that are already bought or already ordered, let them know ahead of time. I mean, customers, most people really appreciate you letting them know ahead of time. I mean, you might have to work hard, extra hours to just get that fixed. But if you let them know ahead of time and they said, oh, this is what there was, maybe example, a supply chain issue, but things we have already ordered, is on the way. So we don't expect there to be a delay. Remember, there was a buffer, you gave them a buffer. So when we give somebody like a buffer, you know that, a buffer means that 2 weeks to the time, you're sure you already have the product, but so you know that, by the 2 weeks mark, you're done. We're just trying to arrange the orders one by one, but you're comfortable and confident that because you already have the products to make these cakes, right? Or these products, right? When it comes to the bakery. Okay. So, and always, of course, have a crisis management plan, and we'll discuss that, analyze the issue, look for ways to fix the issue, right? It is crisis management, right? It could be more, I mean, this might be just something that I said, for raw materials. It could be a bigger crisis management, crisis. There could be a bigger crisis. It could be a fire in the office, but, it's so important for you to, that will look at what the crisis management plan. But okay, so delay in order, make sure, of course, the local options, okay? And of course, if for another example, that's just a bakery, but let me give you another example where it affects the office fire is one thing that affects, affects anybody and everybody. Of course, we have the fire, wonderful firemen and women trying to, not trying, they do their work, not trying to help us because they always help. So remove the word trying. So they always help when it comes to this office fire, right? So in things like that, of course, that will go under where how do you manage the crisis, right? Hopefully, when you have the fires, hopefully, of course, you have the relevant insurance. Of course, you have your specific items kept in a safe place, right? So making sure that that is done. Okay. So, but there are so many, of course, there are so many, we could go on and on with crisis. Of course, as I mentioned, somebody, data breach, so you have to look at, I mean, I'm not going to look at specifics, because if I look at specifics, we're not going to finish this program today or this show today, but just note that. Now let's step back and say, remember I said, always have a crisis management plan. What is that? What is it? What is that? How do you do that? Okay. Now, I would say that the very first step to in having a crisis management plan is to do what? To really look at risk assessment. I mean, I know I spoke about mitigating risk in one of my shows, so I hope you can go back and look at that. But when you look at the risk assessment, that you have to look at it, okay, what about if there's a fire? What happens, right? What are the things that, how do first of all, look at the risk, assess risk. Then, you know what? How do you respond? Remember, you have to access the risk, right? And also look at how do you respond. Now, all these, of course, have to be documented, right? You have to, and let everybody know what is high risk, what is low risk. Now, what is high risk for a bakery, right, is might be different from what is high risk for a store that they maybe a gym. I mean, it just depends. But it's very important for you to actually do a risk assessment for your business to see what are those that what are the risks involved in my business. Some people have online business, and there's also risk there, right? So don't think because you don't have a brick and mortar store, there's no risk. No, make sure you have a risk assessment. One of the things on online business is security when it comes to a platform where people's data are not breached. They are not, you don't have any data breach, right? And it's very important for you to assess that risk. I know some people in online sales, what they do, they work with other companies that have that platforms that are very, very secure. And so many small and medium-sized enterprises, they work with those kind of companies so that they don't have that risk. Data breach can be like taken off them, right? So, but you know what? Even large companies also have that problem here and there. So just wanted to let us understand that the very first thing is the risk assessment. Okay. And then, of course, how do you respond to the risk? All right. Usually I would say that um, you know, there's a saying that says prevention is better than cure, right? There's a saying out there that says prevention is better than cure, right? I've heard it, many people say that, so many people say that. So what I would say is that put um, you know, put things in place, put structures in place, put guardrails in place to make sure as much as possible. I know that sometimes you say, oh, 100%, you can't make sure 100%, but still put guardrails in place to do your best so that you can really avert some crisis. Now, there are some you can avert. If there is let's say maybe there is um maybe the 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 key figure in the company maybe dies. But in that case, well, there could be a way to mitigate that risk. Or in the risk assessment, remember I talked about risk assessment and responding to that risk. You always have somebody that is a backup, right? For that, we're not hoping that anybody dies, but it's not good to have all the information in maybe in a product in one person, right? It's good to always have somebody that or a team that works together. All right. So again, we're not hoping that anybody dies here. Then remember, that's what we're saying. Remember what I said, prevention is better than cure. Now, for another example is, okay, maybe like fire, when you talk about fire hazards, right? Make sure specific important documents could be in the cloud, or it could be stored somewhere in a safe place, that fireproof cabinets. I mean, if you're the one that really likes hard copy of documents, right? Okay, so make sure that there's, has fireproof that files. Or I mean, I love the cloud, but if you're not the cloud person, that's fine. All right, you're not that kind that works, uses a cloud. It depends on what works for you. Okay, so and then let's see if it's an example of the example I gave with the bakery. Remember, I said that there might be supply chain issues. Now, it's very important for business owners to continue to watch the news, right? So, and prepare. Let's say if you know that supply chain issues did not happen just today, it's been there here and there. It's so important for you to ensure that you have a backup. You don't wait until that supply chain, the supplies from that, maybe from the Swedish company, you don't wait for it to run out or something happens. Maybe it doesn't run out, but maybe something happens to the supplies or the supply, the transportation, or something happens. You always look for a backup. You make sure that there's a backup. That's your risk mitigating such a crisis. Don't wait until, I mean, I really feel that it's so wrong for, for example, the baker example I gave, to have only one supplier. Is not right, right? It's not right to have only one supplier. That's very bad because anything can happen to that one supplier. It could anything could happen, and it might, I'm not saying death or but it could happen that somebody buys over that company and says, you know what, I don't want to ship, this person is in Sweden, I don't want to deal with international sales anymore. Yep, it could be new management, new rules. So it's very wrong for you to say that, you know what, I'm going to have one supplier. So again, even though the company might not be that large, your company, that's fine. You have to prepare, and that's really, risk assessment and how to respond to the risk. But again, starting with prevention is better than cure. Okay, very important. All right, then what happens next is that you continue to update the risk, and how do you respond? Because, for example, there might be, for data, right? There might be some information out there that, I mean, there's an improved security item that you can use to prevent the breach. Let's say you're not on one of these platforms, right? That help to monitor or help with your online sales. That's why you have to continue to update. There are changes here and there. There might be new security products. There might be an additional, maybe you're the baker and you have, okay, apart from Sweden, there's somebody actually in South America. There's somebody in maybe somewhere maybe you're located, for example, in Texas. There's somebody you found, oh my goodness, this is also grown in Vermont. You find out, and then when you find that information, what happens? You continue to update, right? That's why when you're looking at risk, you continue to, make sure that you assess and you update. You assess and update, right? I know that there's a show on risk assessment, but I just wanted to make sure we understand prices. Sometimes we don't have to, not sometimes, we don't always, I would say, oh, as much as possible, we don't have to wait for crisis to happen before we manage those crises, right? If we put very um, 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 practical guardrails in place, right, this would not happen. All right. Although I'm not saying 100%, of course, things happen here and there, but at least it will not, negatively impact what we do, right? Right. We can actually still continue as we're fixing the crisis. All right. So very important that we do that. So we actually looked at how do we actually manage crisis? What's crisis? How do we manage crisis? And then also, and of course, I gave some examples. I use a baker as my SME example, the small and medium-sized enterprise. I also talked about um, you know, how to really have that crisis management plan. We talked about risk assessment and how do you respond and the continuous updates and changes. And I also talked about prevention, right? Prevention. You have to put some things in place so that this issue of crisis will not really happen. I mean, even if it does happen, you're ready, right? And I know that large organizations, large companies, they already have, they even have I know they have a whole department for risk assessment. Now, if you're not conversant with doing this, work with a professional. Work with a professional, right? Let them look at what pertains to your company. And I really tell people that when people say, oh, I don't know, how do I pay for that? But when you lose business, the cost of not operating is really, is really, I mean, compared to paying a professional, is really minimal when you look at the professional cost. Because, sometimes this crisis can be so bad and that you're not operating for months, right? And if your business was really a thriving business, you're not operating for months and you're not making money. But if you have a crisis management plan in place, and you pay a professional to actually help you with that, oh my goodness. It means that very little downtime or maybe no downtime at all in your business. All right. So it's very important to ensure that as an SME, you have a crisis management plan. You also look at, you know, the prevention part of it. What can you do now to make sure that you'll never get in a place that your business will will it will stop operating, all right, as much as possible. All right. So hopefully this has made a difference. And of course, stressing it again, this is for informative and educative purposes only. That's why I said work with a professional. And of course, if you don't have a professional that you're working with, we're here to help. Just go to my website and connect to my practice, and then we can set up an appointment and work with you. All right. Awesome. Okay, now let's go to some questions that we have here. Okay, some questions. All right. Um, the first question is that I am planning to further expand my online sales. How do I prevent security risk in my company? All right. I mean, I actually gave this example about expanding online sales or the risk involved with online sales. Now, a lot of times if you're not really that big, I would say if you're not really that large, most people that are not that large actually, or even those that are even large, they actually with work with platforms, right? That can actually help you sell your product. I think they collect the platform, they collect a commission. But one thing that happens is that their platform is secured so that when it comes to security risk, right? When it comes to security risk on items being that people's data being breached. Of course, it happens. It's not, I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but they have some security measures in place. And also you have to make sure that I know that there are some designations or there are some should I say designations or there are certain criteria that they are certain that most of these companies have. They have to have that, right? Security designations, or there are some that they have to have, not those ones, and make sure that they have them because it's very important. Some of them don't, but those that have, I believe that you should make sure you're looking at that. And of course, make sure a professional helps you to analyze that too. All right. Okay, the next question is my sales are low. I want to employ a sales director. Is that a wise decision? Okay, so you say the person wants to, this is an SME, wants to employ a sales director. Okay, you're telling me from what I'm hearing is that your sales are low. Now, my question here is that can you pay that sales director? That's the question. If you are unable to pay the sales director, then you have to think twice. Because I always say cost benefit analysis. There's so many products that you can use to increase your sales. So many products you can use to increase your sales is very doable. You can do that. So I would say that if you can afford it, because when your sales are low, it means that net income is low. But if you might want to think of paying this sales director based on commission if you really want to go that route, because I know having a sales director can be very expensive if you're telling me your sales are low. I'm not saying that the sales director doesn't know what the sales director is doing. Oh no, they know what they're professionals, but you have to really check if that's something you can um, you know, um, if you want to go that route with the cost benefit analysis, you might also want to think of outsourcing, right? There are a lot of companies that say, you know what, pay me a flat fee every month. This is what I can do. This is what I will do for you. All right. So it's for you to do a cost benefit analysis. And of course, please work with a professional. I mean, there are so many outsourced professionals out there. We offer outsource. I mean, um, outsource like consultation, consulting us by the hour. My firm does that, where we can actually see what works best for you. You know, if you sometimes people say, oh, I can't afford to have somebody on staff. That's fine, but I would say that you should make sure you do a cost benefit analysis to see what really works. All right. Okay, when it comes to the sales director, right? I'm not saying the sales director will not know what the sales director is supposed to do, but can you afford it? That's all. Can you afford that? Is it possible for you? Make sure you check that and see. All right. Okay. The next question is that I've been the sole shareholder of my company, right? I'm planning to expand by bringing on a partner. Is that a good expansion strategy? Okay, my answer to that is it depends. It depends. I will not tell you that no, I'm not going to say yes, but I want to make sure that just that you understand what you're trying to do, right? Remember, as a sole shareholder of a company, you could make your decisions. That's fine, but remember, as bringing on someone which is an additional shareholder, okay, would you would have to share that decision making, making sure that the person, both of you, are on the same page, right? Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but make sure if you're going that route, make sure everything is in writing, and make sure that there's a clear cut agreement that says yes, this is what you as a shareholder is doing, or this is your responsibility, this is the other person's responsibility, right? Make sure there's an understanding, right? And of course, make sure that if anything happens, that you know what, there's an exit strategy. Maybe at the end of the day, you find out that you're better off working by yourself. So it's very important for you to know that. Of course, we know that it just depends. Also, this partner is the person bringing in, just coming in as a silent partner, bringing in money. Is the person bringing in expertise? What is the person actually doing? So that's the question you need to ask, right? So it just depends on so many factors. And again, I will say sit with a professional. Just it's not just I would say that don't just bringing on somebody based on emotions, right? A lot of people get so excited, bring on somebody just based on emotions. It's good for you. This is business. This is business, right? And if you're bringing on somebody, make sure that you're able to work with that person. All right. So again, this is business. We're not. It's not. It's not. Just something to do with emotion, because there might be someone that you feel that, okay, this is because you've known the person for so long, but you see some character traits that will not really work. So, I mean, so it depends. If it's somebody that you're just meeting now, again, another thing, another way, another is okay. The person that you knew before, that one you might say I've known, but this person, another partner you're bringing on, I would say that you should also check if this other person that you're bringing is someone that you can work with. All right. So many moving pieces. Just make sure that you know what you're doing. All right. Make sure you're not regretting. Again, there's nothing wrong. I think partners or shareholders that both of them, one was technical, one was a marketer, and they grew the business. They grew the company very well. So there's nothing wrong with that. So you just have to know, if this works for you. You can talk to a professional so you can weigh the pros and cons, okay? And see if the pros make more sense than the cons. All right? Okay, the next question is, my overhead expenses are high. How do I reduce this? All right. So when you're looking at overhead expenses, Are you talking about the brick and mortar store? Now, if you are not, if you feel that that brick and mortar store is not aligned, is not, I mean, it's not bringing you enough customers. Now I tell people now the world has become smaller because of the internet. I mean, now even after COVID, it became even smaller because now we it's not based on geographical location. So now, if your expenses, right, if your expenses are high, for example, you are using a brick and mortar store, but you've seen that your online sales are tremendously high compared to your brick and mortar store, you might say, oh, I want to still maintain my brick and mortar store. I would say that if the cost of maintaining that brick and mortar store is very high, I would say that you could actually direct those people in the brick and mortar store to, come online. You know, I mean, I would say that if the percentage of total sales is very small, then I mean, you should reconsider maintaining that brick and mortar store. All right, that's one way. Secondly, have you actually looked and analyzed your expenses? Would you say that your expenses are would you say your expenses are more maybe in one category, right? And that's why I actually say that please go and look at how how to work with a professional, because what professionals do, accounting professionals, what they do is that they analyze and say, okay, this is how much you spent in this category, and they see that there's a variance, meaning that variance means that the difference between, let's say, for example, they might look at by the quarter, let's say January, February, March, in this category, it could be electricity, it could be you spend January, February, March, you spend this amount of money. All right. January, February, March. All right. Then April, May, June, you're spending this amount of money in this category. It could be maybe, for example, it could be utilities. It could be, it could be any category. You find out what happened. Why is it more? And then, okay, it could be anything. I know that one thing that I I mean I read, or I believe I read, or I read about some of these major companies that, I mean, their snack room, right? Remember how much, I mean, I can imagine the thousands of dollars they spend in their snack room. They actually reduced that to a certain extent, right? They reduced it to a certain extent, something around there. So look at what is it that you can reduce. Are you the kind of person that every single day you must step out and eat? Or what is it? Is it the company expenses, or in meals because there's no entertainment now? So what is it that you're really doing? So it's very important for you to analyze line by line. It might not even be the brick and mortar store. It could be something else. So it's very important for you to analyze line by line and see what really is the issue. All right. It's very important. All right. So that's one of the ways that, as I said, to look at the overhead expenses, and how, of course, first of all, identify what overhead expenses are high, all right, and look at ways to reduce those overhead expenses. I'm not going to give you like something like a general blanket, because it could be one item, 5 items, right? It could be, every item. So it's very important for you to look at what is it that you're actually, looking at, which item are you looking at, which category. All right. So again, always happy to be here. I will confirm. I believe, let me see if I'm going to be here next, because it's going to be some days, some weeks, until the following year, where I might not, you won't see me every week. All right. So I'm looking at the date. I'm not, yes, I believe I'm not available next Tuesday. So just bear with me that time. But yes, I'm not going to be available on the 5th, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, okay. Let me not say that. Let me not say that. It's likely, I'm looking at my schedule. Yes, it's likely that I should be able to make it next week. But just bear with me, because I know that there's going to be some times that during this next few weeks, I would say that there are days that I might not be available for the next 3 to 4 weeks, but definitely, I'll let you know. All right. So beautiful being here. Thank you so much. I know you don't have to be with me this evening or this afternoon or this morning, wherever you are. But it's beautiful to be here today. And I'm hoping that you got something. And of course, as I said, make sure that you go there to my website, and then www.dreneadesina.com, and just as go there and see what works for you. All right. Have a good one. Bye for now. Thank you for being here, and allow me in your room, wherever you are. Okay. Bye.